53s. So the Fuji mirrorless cameras, so I don't have to cover the cameras with a blimp anymore, which is when you hit 57, holding that heavy camera all day is not a good thing. So having a nice light camera is a good thing.
Do you have to buy your own cameras, or does the company buy them for you?
I buy them and they rent them from me every day. So every single day I'm on set, I get a rental fee for my camera equipment. It's a great thing. It's a great thing. All right, let's see what we got next. So here's some random unit photography from 2 different projects. The one on the left is MacGyver for CBS, which shoots here in Atlanta. This guy in the middle, Lucas Till, is a fantastic young actor. He's a super nice guy. On the right is a movie that we shot. I can't remember where they shot this, but that is, oh man, why can't I remember that actor's name? Oh, it'll come to me. But
Forrest Whitaker.
Thank you, Forrest Whitaker. He's a lovely guy. And so this was a show about a movie about this preacher who befriends and helps a guy get out of the Klan. And so they were in front of the redneck shop where the Klansmen buy their wares, which is a true story.
Do the actors stay here, live here, or just come in and out?
It depends. Most actors live in Los Angeles or New York, at least actors that have a big name like Forrest Whitaker. He probably could live wherever he wants to live. I know Lucas from MacGyver, he doesn't live, his residence is not in Atlanta, but he owns a home in Atlanta. I mean, this is season 5 of this show, so they've been working here for a long time. So they buy houses here. So here's 2 pictures from that 60 Days In project. This is a group of white supremacist inmates in Yuma, Arizona. Super scary guys. And then on the right is the sheriff of that county. They always need a portrait of the sheriff. So that's the sheriff. And that's just an on-camera flash bouncing. Like I was holding it in one hand, bouncing it on a wall.
So are these guys pointing you out?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Not the kind of guys I want to hang out with. So this is
sheriff.
Go ahead.
Who is photobombing your portrait of the sheriff through the window in the door?
I know, isn't that great? Just some inmate. We told him we get him $5 in credits in the store. Like they have some sort of a store that they can buy things, and so we made a deal with him. If he would look out the window, we would put $5 worth of money into his account.
Looks like he's got a sign that says homeless need money for food.
Well, he was trying to get out of jail by talking to the sheriff. He was not happy to be in jail, which I don't think many people are. So this was shot here in Atlanta in Old Fourth Ward. So this was a movie called Stuber, and that's Dave Bautista and Kamal Najami. And the only reason why I'm showing you this picture is because I want you to see how I rigged the camera to take this picture, because this car was driving. This car was driving around. So this is the hood of the car, and they put the big motion picture camera on this rig, and then they allowed me to put my camera on that same rig. So a polarizing filter on it to help cut the glare. And that's how this picture was taken here. So pre-focus it and shoot it via remote to my telephone or to my cell phone. So I have a cell phone app I can shoot pictures from. So I'm just going to kind of go through some quick portraits that I've done, just of some of the famous people that I've met. And that
tape over Fuji to avoid reflection, or is that for not having advertisement?
oh no, I tape it over because I don't want to see it reflecting in windows. So that's something that I do to all my cameras, is I tape that off. It's just it's not something you have to do, but it's just something I do. Someone taught me that early in my career.
Thanks.
Sure. So Ty Pennington on the left. This is natural light portrait. So just in a doorway with a black cloth behind him. I do this a lot. This type of picture. And then a regular seamless setup with Danny DeVito. And then some pretty awesome ladies, Cher and Julie Andrews and Rita Moreno, all done with a much broader, prettier light than you see with DeVito. You see the DeVito's, the shadows are much deeper, but with Cher, you know, you need to have a prettier light. So we added a little bit more fill to her. Julie is a natural light, shot with a 50 mil wide open, you know, so, you know, put your camera on a tripod and take a deep breath and press the shutter and hope that it's sharp, because it's really, really hard to just get her eyeball with a 1.2 lens. It's really, really hard.
So I'm Demetria, and thank you for giving this tutorial to us. It's very impressive. I'm learning a lot.
Sure.
I'm a novice now. So I'm gonna put that out there. So if I use the words wrong, I apologize and everything. But I had took a class of photography. I'm in a class now for photography. But the first class I took was in college. So I had 16 weeks, twice a week for like 4 or 5 hours a day. So it's in depth. And we got into like shooting the portrait photos and talking about the Rembrandts and the butterfly over the nose and stuff like that. And I was interested in knowing like which one of these exhibit that type of portrait shooting.
You know, I don't really ascribe to that aesthetic all the time. You know, like, you know, Rembrandt lighting is a classic way of lighting a portrait that's much moodier, that gives you that little triangle of light on the shadow side of the face. And I don't know if I have anything like that on here. You'll notice that a lot of my lighting is a little bit more broad, a little bit more flattering, especially with ladies. You know, the only shadow that really interests me is the shadow under the chin, so that you get a nice defined feel of the face. If you light it too flat, like this Julie Andrews pictures, it's almost so flat that you don't see the difference between her chin and her neck. And that can be a problem if you're trying to reproduce a picture. But like, you know, this picture of John Lithgow, you know, the one on the right-hand side, I mean, it is closer to a Rembrandt style of lighting, but it's not that deep and heavy. It's definitely directional, and it definitely has a definite shadows feel, which I think is very important. Let me get to this next slide. You know, this is 3 different kinds of light. You know, Elijah Wood here on the left, it's definitely a side lit feel. The one of Eli Wallach, you know, it's a little bit bigger, broader light. And then the one of Anthony Hopkins is more of a twin light, like a copy lighting almost, you know, where the lights are kind of where his ears are, which it's not in front of his face. That's why the bridge of his nose is darker. So, I mean, I don't always kind of ascribe to you know, the classic portrait lighting, I guess. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. I mean, because actually trying to use all that portrait lighting when I was at school was very confusing. And it was trying to grasp concept into it. Maybe I didn't have enough time learning it. In school, it was confusing, and it just kind of like took away, for me, the fun of taking the photo. It was like it just discombobulated me some.
Well, I think that's an important point, that sometimes the craft and the technical side of whatever you're doing, whether you're a photographer or a plumber or an architect, the craft and the technical side of it is harder to learn. But once you if you do it enough and you spend enough time playing with it, making mistakes and taking some bad pictures and learning from the missteps, then all of a sudden things start to make sense, and it's not as hard to create the lighting that you're looking for. You know, and then you start to get formulas that work. So I would say, if I was going to give advice, I would say it doesn't matter what the terminology is, just make lighting that makes you happy, that is flattering to your subject, you know?
Awesome sauce. I really appreciate that. I'm just making a note of myself
Sure.
about what you said.
Sure. So Ernest Borgnine, which we shot at his home in Los Angeles before he died. So this is kind of what I shot during the day and how it was ended up being used. This is definitely more of a harder light, the one in the middle on white. And Dick Van Dyke, again, just one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet. And he's still kicking, you know, he's like in his middle 90s. So here is another very typical lighting setup. I kind of wanted to show you all just a couple of these portrait lighting things. I know we're kind of getting along in the time, so I'm not gonna dwell on any of these unless you have specific questions. But this is the kind of the view of this. If you were being photographed by me, I would be standing in front. Can you see my cursor? Can everybody see this? Okay.
Yeah.
So I would be standing right here in front of this octabank, and my key light, which is the most important light, is this big, huge parabolic silver umbrella. And so it gives just this big, beautiful, sharp, punchy light, and the shadows get black really fast. So you use this other light to soften those black shadows so that it's prettier looking. And then on the very right hand side, you'll see a white bounce that helps wrap that fill light, which is coming from this octabank, helps wrap that fill light around a little bit, so it's really pretty. And here's kind of a cool overhead. This set in the foreground is my set. The set in the background is another photographer's. So we were both shooting for the same TV show, and the actors would cycle through. They would come to me and they would come to her. So this is basically the same setup. The big parabolic silver umbrella as my key light. The octabank here behind me is my fill, and then you have these white bounces to kind of help wrap that fill light around, and then behind that are black to help give a little black edge to the very back of the body. One umbrella that lights the gray, seamless, and then this is the backlight that's kind of giving him a little edge. Everything's being pumped into this computer. It's run by a computer operator. And then here's Matt, my assistant. And I don't see anybody else. These are hair and makeup people and wardrobe people from the TV show. And it's funny, I must be sitting on this box right here behind that light because you can't see me.
So have you done many judging situations where you go out and judge groups like us where we present pictures?
Never done that ever.
because you know your setup is a whole lot different from what most of us do, which is point our camera.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I feel you. I mean, and I think that's what's great about, um, groups like this is like, especially me talking to you guys, is like what you guys do is like, I could never do astral photography. I've never tried that before, and, using, like, I don't know if anybody's shooting with, medium format digital backs on like hybrid view cameras, for landscape photography. I mean, that's super interesting and hard to do and not something I do very often. So there's so much to photography, there's so much to it. And it's such a fun thing to do because, in my career, I've been a food photographer. I worked when I was at Turner, worked for the Atlanta Braves. I shot baseball games. I shot basketball games for the Hawks. I shot breaking news for CNN. I mean, I've done all these different weird kinds of photography. But what I'm showing you now is the stuff I like the most, what I like to do, I feel the most comfortable doing. So, couple of Parade magazine covers. This is a great BTS picture because you can see literally the cover of Parade magazine on that monitor, as we're shooting it. This was down in New Orleans. And that's really it. So, questions? Anybody have thoughts or?
So if you go back one slide and you've got, so looking over Ben's head, the rim light for his hair is a little bright and a little bit not quite blown out, but I guess what caught my attention on that is that seems to be a trend that I've seen in wedding portraits and family portraits and things like that lately. Over this period of time, have you seen various trends in how people are photographed?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I'm not sure. I mean, when I first started, we shot on a lot of modeled backdrops, like canvasy backdrops. And that I haven't shot on one of those in years and years. There was a long time where shooting on bright white seamless was what everybody wanted you to do. And now it's more towards a gray seamless, it seems. As far as flare is concerned, that's just a personal thing I like to do. It's like, how do you make this picture a little bit more interesting than just Ben Affleck sitting on a bleacher, and so, this picture specifically is we had 3 setups ready to go, and Ben walks into the room and his publicist killed one of the pictures. She's like, no, I don't want to do that. And it was the picture that we thought was going to be the cover. So he went into the locker room to put on his outfit. And I turned to my client from Parade and I'm like, we need a new cover and we need to put it together in 10 minutes. And so we threw this picture together. And so my assistant ran a strobe head outside. There's a courtyard. If you look at the computer monitor in right here, you can see that there's windows behind him. And my intention was to put multiple heads to go through all those windows, but we just didn't have time. So they just put one head back there and we took a picture and it flared a little bit, but not too much, because you can still see his hair pretty well. And so we just sort of went with it. So
that background looks like it's wood, but in the image on the right, it looks like concrete block wall painted yellow.
Yeah, it is. It's yellow and it's got purple accents because the school their color was purple, and the wood behind him are the bleachers. And you know, going back to that question about trendiness in image making, you know, sometimes, you know, there was a big trend with a photographer named Platon. He was shooting everybody with like a 24 mil lens. And there's a really famous picture of Bill Clinton sitting on a stool, and it's shot with a super wide angle lens, and Platon was low shooting up at Clinton, and it looked, you know, like instead of a stool, it was like part of his anatomy, his male anatomy, without saying it out loud. So that was sort of a trend for a while to shoot things that were wider than you normally would. And that all comes from like the famous photographers that are shooting magazine work. You know, Avedon had his look and that people were ripping off. And I think maybe Flair, you could probably say, falls into that category too, maybe.
What made his publicist so against the original shot?
Oh, I don't know, because they're publicists and they can flex. We really wanted to shoot them in a coat and tie. I really thought that a coat and tie would have been a super cool picture. But they brought the suit to the school. And when the publicist walked in, she's like, he will not wear a suit and he will not touch a basketball. Because this was all promoting this basketball movie that came out last year. And so Ben didn't know that she told us that he couldn't touch a basketball. So what we did is we had a rack of basketballs. So we had 30 basketballs because we were in a high school gym. So we put basketballs everywhere, all around where he was going to be sitting or standing, so that it would be natural for him to pick it up. And when he sat down on bleachers, there was one right outside of the frame. And the first thing he did was he picked up that basketball, and I declared victory because I got Ben Affleck to hold the ball when his publicist told me not to.
Does Ben Affleck have any say in the deal? Who's the client?
The client was
Parade.
The client was Parade. The person that has the most say would be Ben, but if Ben's not aware of the decisions, then it's the publicist. And they just like to flex their muscles. They're not always the nicest people to work with. So.
Hey, Mark, looking at the shot, what focal length is this?
Well, I'm shooting with my 24-70. So I would assume it's out at 70, I would think. I mean, I really like that lens, that zoom lens. It's really sharp, but it has it gives you just a little bit of flexibility. If you get kind of settled into your spot and you want to widen out a little bit, you can. So you can go to 55 millimeters maybe, but I certainly wouldn't shoot it wider than that. You know, unless it was something that was like if I was shooting a comedian, maybe I could shoot it a little bit wider and make it a little bit stretchier, you know, make the face come forward and the body go back a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, it's got a nice feel of the compression of the scene. I like it.
Yeah, and it falls off. The focus falls off pretty quickly, you know. So I'm probably shooting at 5.6, I would think. I usually try to be in that kind of 5.6 range, you know, f4 if we have to, you know, it's nice.
Do you shoot it so that there'll be room for the writing on the left, or do they just adjust the picture to make room?
Absolutely shoot it so that it fits the layout 100%. I mean, that's part of the job is, you know, where you know that there's going to be copy on the left hand side and you need a place for the Parade logo to go. So you have to give it a little bit more room, you know. And then again, it's 48 megapixels, so it's like it's a giant file. You know.
Another question, not so much about this particular shot, but I was curious if you ever shot any underwater pictures.
I've done one thing underwater. I'm a scuba diver, so I know how to dive. And CNN asked me if I could shoot a little video, underwater video for a documentary. And I was like, absolutely, that sounds like a blast. So I went and I rented a tank and a wetsuit because it was in like the 1st of May. And so we have a pool in our community and it's freezing cold. It's the coldest water on the face of the planet. It's like being in Antarctica. So I put on the wetsuit, I put the tank on, and I have a set of prescription goggles, to help me see. And I grabbed my 5D and I went to the bottom of the pool. And what I didn't realize is that I don't have bifocals on my scuba mask. So I couldn't read a thing on my camera.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'm laying down at the bottom of the pool and shooting video, hand focusing it just by luck.
Osmosis.
I just shot it at F-16,
One of our members, Diane Vanderputter, she does lots of underwater photography. She's a great underwater. So you need to get in touch with her sometime, Diane. Make note.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll ever do it again. I have trouble with my left ear when I dive a lot, so I can go diving, but then it kind of screws me up for about a month. So I'm probably not going to be taking any of Diane's clients, that's for sure. So, here's my my website and my Instagram. Follow me. I'll follow you back, and if you have questions, just hit me up. And I love to talk about photography. I'm also the board chair of APA Atlanta, which is American Photographic Artists. So that's a big part of what I do in my off time is try to get things going with that. So if you follow APA Atlanta, and if there's one of our programs that you really would like to sit in on, let me know, and I will make sure you can get into the Zoom call. It's really.
Tell us about those shoes on the right there. Where were you when you got all that mud on your foot?
That is from the day, that the picture of the catapult that was, so they built that up on the top of this hill, and then it was raining like it's been raining here lately. I mean, it was so muddy, and so where they going to shoot the show, they don't drive any of the like gators or trucks or anything, but just below that, they drive up and down the road, and it just became this mud pit to the point where, you're sinking up to your ankles in mud. So that was me not being very happy. The second one of me in my rain suit, that's just a typical rainy day like today, cold and rainy, where you still have to work.
Might be a good competition
on your lensing.
Say again?
I had a question on your lensing. With your Fujis, are you finding that Fuji provides all the lensing you need, or are you finding yourself using adapters and other lenses?
Well, that kind of brings up an interesting side point too. I really like, for many applications, I really think that Fuji's a great camera manufacturer, and I have no problem with the lenses they offer. I have 5 of the Fuji primes, and I have 3 Fuji zooms. So I have like all the Fuji glass I could ever want. But I made the decision last week to jump to the Canon mirrorless cameras, the R5. So I'm getting ready to get rid of all the Fuji cameras, the glass, and most of my EF Canon bodies and lenses, so that I can afford to buy all these Canon R5s. So I shot with an R5 on Friday in low light with needing a high shutter speed. and it just blew me out of the water. They're just unbelievable cameras. So I like Fuji. I don't love Fuji. Over 3200 ISO, it looks mushy to me. They're not pretty files. But you take a Canon R5 or a Sony A7S file, and you go up to 6400 or even above, and those files are beautiful, considering, so.
Well, Mark, we cut you off, but we sure do appreciate what you've told us. It's been fantastic.
Sure. I mean, I enjoyed every second of it.
Good. I learned a lot, and like I said, it was certainly more interesting in taking pictures where most of us won't ever get to take pictures like that. But it was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, Mark, on behalf of the club, thanks. Really enjoyed the show.
Thank you. And if you have any questions, I will help anybody with anything, literally, other than paint your house. So if you have questions, just, send me a note on Instagram or through my website, and I will be more than happy to help you all in any way I can.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
thanks,
again,
Mark.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
One last thing.
Thank you.
I noticed Mark's not on. Can you make a plug for the competition in our digital image deadline, please?
The next competition?
Yeah, I was talking to Umit to see if he could give us some information.
Sure. The next competition is on March the 1st. So the pictures are due the week before on Monday by 3 o'clock. I know most of you send those out on Friday or Saturday, and that's very much appreciated.
Well, Mark, again, hi, Liz, thank you for making all this happen. I really appreciate it. Great show.
Oh, no problem.
Great. Thank you,
Try
guys.
not to be forgetful next time, and won't forget part of our responsibilities. We'll get it next time.
Okay.
And that's February 22nd. February is a short month, and the March date is early in the month. So February 22nd is the turn-in date.
And the topic is eyes.
Correct.
Yes.
So 22nd is actually next Monday.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is.
21st.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you. Hi, Liz, thank you. And Mark, great show.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it a lot.
Mark.
Take care.